In this video, I'm going to show you how to hardwire this Furrion observation monitor into 12-volt power so I can eliminate the cord here. That's what I'm going to do. I found that I like where this is mounted here with the suction cup, where it's kind of up by my mirror so I can glance up at it. I could put it here on the dash somehow, but I don't really want to obstruct anything here. There's nowhere really to put it here. So searched on the internet, and then nobody really had a cord set up where I could just put it on and hardwire it, just like my dash cam here I got, and then I bought a kit where I hardwired into the power, the 12-volt power, instead of plugging in and having another cord down like here. So this just unplugs out of here like that, like that. Found another wire online here. This is a plug here. I'll cut this end off, and then I'll splice in this mini fuse setup. I'll show you how I do that step by step. This wire will actually go, and it feeds. I can just stuff it up under here, all the way here, like that, here, and then I go across here. I can stuff it in here, like that. Then I come over here, and I can stuff it in back here, follow it down, all the way down here, and come around here, right here, and then I'm going to swing around this area and stuff it through to a fuse box in here. So I'm going to come over here and show you what I'm going to do. So it's going to, the wire will come out here and go in here, and I'll tie it into this fuse box, which I'll show you how. My dash cam is right here. You can see that red wire coming in, and that's where I tied in the dash cam. So whenever the truck's powered up, the camera goes on, and then after I turn the truck off, it stays on for a couple minutes and then switches off, so it doesn't drain my battery. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to hope that this works, this wire, and we'll see if it does or not. But I have a good feeling it's going to. Here's what the Furrion camera looks like in the back, just below the marker lights. You can see it here. I'll get a little closer. So that's what it looks like in the back of the trailer. So you don't necessarily have to have a Furrion camera. You can have any other type of camera. There's a lot of other popular ones out there, but this is the one I went with because it was all set up for this trailer. I'm in the garage now. I just cut off this end that I don't need off the wire, and then here I'm going to strip this back and expose the two wires that I'll splice into this mini fuse. I used my utility knife to cut back the outside jacket, the black part, covering the wires. Just made a little slit in it, being careful not to cut the red and black wire with my utility knife. I have my wires stripped back here, and then here is, let's see, that's where it'll plug into with this end right here. And before I put all this in, I'm going to make sure this thing works. So I just happen to have this 12-volt setup. I'm just going to connect the wires to here and then plug it into the back of the monitor and see if it powers up. I want to do this to make sure this cord's going to work before I go through all this work. So here's the moment of truth. I have black hooked to black, red to red, power's off, it's plugged in, get it plugged into this. Now, fingers crossed that I don't fry everything. Power on, I got a blue light, and it seems to be working. It's not picking up the camera on the trailer itself right now because it's not close enough to it, and it's not powered up at the camera. So it's working. So that's good. No smoke coming out of it or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and get this wire connected, and then we'll get it all set up. We got the monitor in place. All my cords untied here, ready to go. So I'm going to start stuffing it up in here and working my way down. I got part of the wire in here. You can see right here where I ran it across, zip tied it to the mirror wire, and then I went along stuffing it in there. So I'm all ready to right here. So it's going pretty good so far. I'm going to keep going. So this is the hardest part so far, getting the wire through here into this compartment here. So I used a coat hanger, metal coat hanger, cut it maybe 10 inches long, and then tape the wire onto the end of it and push this through and fed it through to here. So it's right here. So now I'm just going to take this tape off and then pull that hanger out and then finish feeding my wire. So to determine the fuse size, I just looked here, unscrewed this tip here, and then it has a 1 amp fuse in there, the glass tube type. So this kit only comes with a 3 amp. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up a 1 amp fuse for it. And but I'm going to go ahead and test all this with a 3 amp fuse that it has in the kit. So it's having trouble focusing, but this will be my ground back here. That's where I put the ground for the dash camera. This here, let's see, where is it? This is a dash camera fuse set up here. And I'm going to go ahead and put here for my Furrion monitor. So I'm going to put it there, take the 30 amp fuse and plug it into the unit that I'm going to be installing. So I'm getting ready to wire in my fuse holder. And so I've determined here I'm going to go with number 33. 33 is my radio. So when I turn the truck off, the radio turns off after 5 or 10 minutes. So that will work for me to turn off the Furrion monitor. So when I got into the panel, I realized that I originally purchased this one, and this is called the mini circuit holder. And then I saw that I actually needed this one, so I had to run down to the automotive store and buy it's called a micro 02. It's a smaller one. So I'm going to go install this one, and then I'll plug it into number 33. And what happens here is the fuse that's in 33, I think, is a 20 amp. It will go here in these holes, which will connect to this. It'll just connect a circuit through there. And then what I determined was I needed a 1 amp fuse for here, which will go to the Furrion monitor. So that's what I got to do. So they don't have 1 amp fuses, so I'm going to put I think I have a 5 amp I'm going to put in, and then I'm going to look into ordering a 1 amp fuse for it. Well, it took a little more work than I thought, figuring out what fuse to tie into. I tried a few different ones, and I tried the radio fuse, because thinking that the radio, every time the radio goes off, it would kill the power to the Furrion monitor, but it didn't. And I tried several of them. I finally found that I plugged into 35 and it worked. So as soon as I start the vehicle, the Furrion camera system goes on, the monitor in the truck, and then when I turn the truck off, it goes off. And so 35 is actually the restraints mode. So I think the restraints mode is for the seat belts to kind of lock a little bit, tighten up on you. So that's what I went with. Number 35 works. So if you do this, you might have to play around with it and try and find the one that works for you. I've got everything hooked up, and everything seems to be working. And I have my ground wire connected up in this area where you see that little red connector. The connector is similar to this one. This one's blue, and the other one's red color. So the red is for smaller wire. So it worked out real well. So I'm going to go ahead and plug the truck into the trailer and test this out and see how the monitor works. So here it is complete. I got the monitor in place here, and then my wires run down, and this all buttoned up down there where I have the fuses, nice and clean. And just so you know, this wire here, I can unplug it when I'm not using this camera system, and then I'll put this monitor in my glove box and just leave the wire hanging. So when I hit my truck on, you'll see this go live. So that goes on, but the camera in the back is not coming on until I go ahead and turn my lights on the truck. If you don't do that, the camera won't work in the back. So there it is operating. So this calls for a 1 amp fuse, and the smallest fuse I could find for this fuse holder setup that I have is a 3 amp fuse. So I'm debating on just leaving it a 3 amp fuse and not worry about it, which things are unlikely that things could fry from that, or putting it on the red wire near the fuse holder that I just put in. Tap into that red wire and put a inline 1 amp fuse. So I'm debating on that. I'll probably do the 1 amp fuse setup, and if I do, I'll write it in the description below. So keep an eye on the description below. Not so fast, people. I decided to do this right now. Put this inline right here, inline fuse in place right now. Here's the stuff I got for it. 1 amp fuse. So here's my 3 amp fuse, or it's 5 amp. So what I got here is the 5s. So I'm just going to cut this 1 amp fuse in here. I thought it was a 3 amp, but it's not. Anyway, I'm going to cut it in right now. Got the wire stripped on each side of this fuse holder. Butt connector just sitting there, ready to be crimped. And here is the wire stripped, and here's the butt connector with the clamp that'll clamp down the butt connector on the wire. Now I'm going to just shrink down this butt connector around this wire using a lighter. Just put a little heat to it, and it shrinks down around the wire. You don't want to get too hot. And that just assures a nice tight seal. These are more for waterproofing, but you don't really need to do it where I'm doing it, but I like to do it because it helps hold it together tighter against the wire. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other one and then put it in place. There we go, all soldered in place. So now I'm just going to go ahead and plug this back in. It's plugged back in. I'm going to go ahead and just stuff these wires back in here. Put the cover back on and call it good. And now I know it's right with a 1 amp fuse. I bet you didn't think I was going to go ahead and do that in this video, did you? Well, I couldn't not do it. It was driving me nuts. Well, I'll do future comments of how this is working out, if I had any problems or not. I'll give you updates, and I'll have a complete list of parts I used to do this project. And if you have any comments or anything, questions, feel free to leave them below, and I always reply back. If you want to see future videos pop up as I put them out there, I try and do one every week if I can, or every few weeks, or every month. Then just hit the subscribe button and the bell icon, and it'll pop up in your email that there's a new video out. Okay. One more thing, when I go ahead and I hit this off, like here, I'll hit it off, this will go off immediately where I got it hooked up. And then you always make sure that you turn your lights off. So thanks for watching, everybody. Take care and happy camping.